The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.
Being generous can feel like a stretch after all these months of pandemic. So many people have done so much. It's Giving Tuesday, and tonight we'll find out how global charities are doing their work internationally and all through a global pandemic, no less. Also, we'll hear about local efforts to bridge some of the gaps that have grown under COVID-19. It's Tuesday, November 30th, and that's next on The Agenda. Nine years ago, someone named Henry Timms at the 92nd Street Y in New York City came up with an idea. Many Americans had just spent several days over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend having fun or shopping their brains out. Maybe Henry thought it'd be nice to follow up on that with something more charitable. Thus was born Giving Tuesday, the first Tuesday after American Thanksgiving, which has exploded into an annual reminder to be generous. But how much of that do we do, particularly during a prolonged global pandemic? To find out, let's welcome four representatives from some of Canada's top aid agencies. In Peterborough, Ontario, Julia Anderson, CEO of the Canadian Partnership for Women and Children's Health, CanWatch for short. In Oakville, Ontario, Michael Messenger, President and CEO, World Vision Canada. In Ontario's capital city, in the West End, Rachel Logal-Carmichael, Director of International Programs and Partnerships for Save the Children. And in the Annex, David Morley, President and CEO of Unicef Canada. And it's great to welcome you four to our airwaves this evening for what is obviously a very timely conversation, given that this is Giving Tuesday. I want to start by not assuming that all of our viewers or listeners on podcast know what your organizations do. So let's just start with there. Julie Anderson, what's your mission at CanWatch?
Thanks so much for having us. I'm so excited to be here on Giving Tuesday. So we bring together the expertise, the research community, the civil society organizations like those who are in front of you to really work to promote women and children's health around the world. And what we're trying to do is create the connective tissue between the organizations to take the dollars that you as Canadians invest in the work and take them as far as possible to enhance the health and rights of the most marginalized women and children around the world.
Gotcha. Michael Messenger, how about you?
World Vision Canada is one of Canada's largest charities, but we're part of a global partnership working around the world. And our mission is really to focus on long-term community development, emergency relief, and advocacy for the most vulnerable children around the world. So we're working in about 100 countries, lots of partners, including the organizations on the screen here today. But my role in Canada here is to engage with Canadians and invite them to join this cause, which we do on Giving Tuesday and actually all throughout the year.
Rachel Logal-Carmichael, Save the Children Canada. What's your mission?
So Save the Children is a child rights organization. We've been working globally in 120 countries for over 100 years. And so similar to partners on the line, we engage in development work in those countries, as well as humanitarian assistance, and really work to ensure that child rights is at the forefront of the work of governments, of communities, and that families are really ensuring that children are at the center of the work that's being done.
David Morley, how about UNICEF?
Well, UNICEF is the United Nations Agency for Children. We're the agency that's named in the Convention of the Rights of the Child. And our mandate is to protect and promote children's rights. That's through programs in health, education, nutrition. And of course, that means working together with all the agencies, all of the colleagues that are here on the show to make sure that together we can make a better world for children.
David, we're only a month away from Halloween, so I want to ask this quick follow-up because, and I'm sure you get this all the time, I do remember when I was a kid, all the kids had little UNICEF boxes that we used to put coins in. Do those not exist anymore? Because I haven't seen one for years.
The little boxes don't exist, but we still do Halloween campaigns. They've gone online. They're digital. If you go to our website, you could find an icon of the box, and on the back there's a QR code. Too late for this year, but next year we're going to be continuing our digital transformation of Halloween.
Gotcha. All right. One of the things we want to find out now is, at the risk of putting it crassly, how's business? And to that end, I'm going to ask our director, Sheldon Osmond, to bring up a graphic here. This is from the Giving Report, the year 2021, and they conclude that troubling declines in overall giving in 2020 pose a serious challenge to Canadian charities, but there were also several positive trends. Many Canadians generously gave online in response to the global COVID-19 pandemic, the report states. So we can say, let's pick out some of the highlights here, online giving grew 86% year over year in 2020. And for example, Indigenous people's charities increased by 2.25 times. Social services charities increased 2.2 times. And health-related charities increased almost twice as much. That's the good news. Now, on the downside of things, the projected overall giving declined 10% year over year in 2020 to 2016 levels. So it's a mixed bag here. Let's follow up with this. We know that, I guess we know that when, the news is truly awful, more people do tend to give to your organizations. People do respond to weather-related disasters or tsunamis. They want to help out. But COVID-19 is sort of 19 months and counting. So let's find out what's happened to your revenues during the course of this pandemic. Let's go in inverse order this time. David, what's happened to revenues at Unicef?
Well, in fact, for us at Unicef Canada, the last year and this year have been very strong years. And the reason, Steve, is that, well, in an average year, if we ever have those again, UNICEF vaccinates almost half of the world's children. And so we have been asked to lead the global distribution of vaccines to low and middle income countries. And that means that Canadians, when they know that, they have been very, very supportive. It's actually been really, really heartening to see how Canadians and Canadian companies and foundations have really responded wonderfully to our call. And it's helped, that's been an important part of helping make sure that UNICEF has been able to distribute more than 500 million vaccines to low and middle income countries just in this year alone. And
are your revenues actually up this year over last year?
Yes, they're up this year because more Canadians, they've said, well, to stop, we know we cannot end this global pandemic just one country at a time. We have to do it everywhere. And they know that UNICEF has been given the task, distribute those COVID-19 vaccines to the low and middle income countries, and they want to help. It's been really inspiring, Steve, and to see how Canadians have put aside borders and they've said, we're going to end this. We're going to end this for everybody, and we're going to do it by helping to vaccinate the world.
Okay, Rachel, how about at Save the Children? How are revenues?
Well, we've definitely had to look at different ways of engaging with partners that we work with in different ways. So similar to what David has spoke about, the inspiring partnerships with corporations, for example, and really looking to how we're responding and addressing the needs in Canada, for example, with the Indigenous communities partners that we work with. But because a lot of our revenue is generated from face-to-face types of engagement, we've had to pivot that and really look at different ways of engaging Canadians. For example, we've worked with, through our Kids Hub to ensure that we have ways of engaging children and their families, not in fundraising, but in understanding, what's happening and having them contributing to the mission in different ways as well. We've also seen an amazing response from the Canadian government in terms of providing our organizations with support to ensure that we have the access to both development and humanitarian funds that allow us to continue with our mission.
After I go through this set of Q&As, we are going to follow up on how you're actually having to pivot, how you're having to change in the ways in which you raise money. But let's continue with Michael in the meantime. Michael, this year over last year, how are revenues doing?
Well, I can say that the first year of the pandemic, we saw about a 6% decrease in private cash donations, in part because a lot of our fundraising channels we just weren't able to do. As Rachel said a moment ago, anything involving face-to-face engagement, whether that's events or churches or concerts or neighborhood marketing, all had to stop because of the pandemic. We've been able, though, to transform our work towards a more digital approach. You noted that from the Canada Giving Report. And so we actually have seen increases year over year from last year to now. I think one of the challenges, though, for organizations like ours that are focused primarily on international causes is that at times like this, unlike the usual tsunami or earthquakes that happen somewhere on the other side of the world and Canadians rally around to support, it's been something that really has had no borders. We've been impacted here in Canada as we have around the world. And so we saw a bigger increase in domestic charities doing social work, social services here in Canada. But of course, the needs have gone up here and around the world. And so that's the biggest challenge, is how do we deal with reduced or flat revenues while the needs are going up faster than the resources available to help meet them.
And again, more on that in a moment. Julia, how about for you folks at CanWatch?
So we don't accept private donations. So we're a not-for-profit organization. We support our 100 member organizations, all of whom are charitable organizations or for-profit businesses. But just two meta trends that I would underline that folks have spoken to. One is this notion that Canadians, what we're seeing and what I'm hearing from my members is that Canadians get it. And David spoke to this, Michael spoke to this, Rachel spoke to this. We did an exercise called Deliberative Democracy. We threw people in virtual rooms together, people who disagree with one another, a representative sample of Canadians. And what we found conclusively is that Canadians get it. They get the interconnectedness of my experience as a mother having to keep my kid home from school. That came from outside of our borders. That's affecting and impacting people around the world. And there's a mother over in Tanzania who's also keeping her kids at home. So Canadians understood inherently this idea that the pandemic has really shown how interconnected we are. And then the second thing is, and I think Michael spoke to this a little bit, is this notion of us as organizations who are internationally focused are learning, and Rachel spoke to this too, are learning to get better at creating that and bridge. So yes, we are working internationally and globally to fight this pandemic. We are getting vaccines to people. We are working on the ground in health clinics with community health workers, with frontline healthcare workers. And we recognize the needs at home, and we're doing something to address that too. We're working in partnership, in collaboration, connecting with the grassroots organizations that are working here, because often they have more in common with their international counterparts than they have different, right? So an inner city Kingston, Jamaica, project that's working on anti-violence and trying to get community health centers up and running has a lot that's similar to an inner city Toronto anti-violence project. And how are we making those connections? And the pandemic has really allowed Canadians to see that in a new way, and also forced us as organizations to talk about our work in a different way. So to me, those are both wins, but it's going to be a long journey, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Michael, I did want to follow up on something you just said, which is you said revenues, the first year the pandemic hit, were off 6%. Now that's a number, but that number means real dollars. And it means that you folks, no doubt, had to make some very hard decisions about what you couldn't do, because that 6% revenue drop meant less money. Can you share with us, what couldn't you do as a result of taking in fewer funds?
Well, it not only is what we couldn't do, but even the things we were doing had to be done differently. So one of my colleagues at World Vision in Latin America said that during the pandemic, it's been 0% business as usual for us, but 100% mission as usual. So the question has been, how do we ensure that we keep the promises to the communities and families and children that we're involved in? In the short term, for example, in our programming, it meant that a lot of our models that involved community engagement, where people had to travel to or go to a community, education programs, a variety of things, had to stop, and we had to find new ways of engaging. Sometimes it was high-tech ways, using mobile technology and phones. Sometimes it was actually things low-tech. In parts of Latin America, we were actually using radio to help deliver some key programming and some youth life skills work, for example. So we've had to figure out new ways of doing that, but it was incredibly disruptive. And then here in Canada, for us, as we thought about what do we need to do right away to respond, when you're, especially in the early days when we just didn't know what the implications would be from a fundraising or revenue perspective, we had to make difficult decisions about stopping our programs, and we had to reduce our staff footprint, to reduce our costs. And those were very painful decisions that I hope that we did well. But our goal had to be ultimately to stay, how could we be good stewards to keep ensuring that as many funds as possible could flow to our programs overseas, internationally. And this year, we actually sent more funds to our national programs than we have in our history in terms of the net amount that flowed to our, to sent resources as the engine of our development and humanitarian work.
Rachel, I'm curious about how you may have had to change the way you pitched people for their participation in what you're doing during a time of COVID as opposed to during regular times. Does the pitch change as you try to get partnerships all over the place?
Well, I think as others have spoken about, having that connection of people for understanding what's happening to them in their homes, how this, connects to what's happening overseas, allowed for that connection to be quite different. Where for, child-focused organizations, we were reaching out to children as well to try and have them understand not the pitch, but to really understand their role as global citizens as well, and having to share those linkages to say what you're experiencing here in your homes is similar to what others are also experiencing overseas. In terms of work with with other types of partners, local communities, corporates, again, most of these organizations or groups had shifted to their homes and being able to say, and identify what those commonalities were, allowed us to actually speak to something that they understood.
Let me just ask our director, Sheldon Osmond, to give me a foreshot for a second here. And I want to see by show of hands, many organizations have sort of the big annual blowout, whatever it is. It's a gala dinner or it's a big something or other. You get some stars to come forward. And they raised, you raise a huge amount of your annual budget in one night. Can I see by show of hands how many of your organizations traditionally did that? Nobody, eh? Nobody did that. Interesting. David, that seems to be a tried, tested, and true way of trying to raise money. How come UNICEF doesn't do that?
Well, because what we find is, as is the case, I know, with my colleagues at World Vision and Save the Children, that often it's the door-to-door, it's bringing people to tell the story about what our work is like overseas is a more successful way. For us at UNICEF, we do have two galas, big galas a year, one in Halifax, one in Calgary. They went virtual and online, but they're not the they raise a lot of money for us. They still have, though people in those cities have stayed with us. But it's the monthly donors, that ongoing commitment from Canadians who give $20 a month that has meant all the difference for us to be able to continue doing our work and then to grow it into this massive global vaccine distribution that we're doing.
I get you, David, but part of the great allure of those big galas, as you had them on either coast, is the chance to be with people, the chance to schmooze, and you can't do that on Zoom. I'm sorry, Zoom's great technology, but it just ain't the same. So how do you replace the big ask with with what do you replace it?
For us at UNICEF, it was actually pretty straightforward, Steve. When UNICEF was given the task to procure and distribute global COVID vaccines to 20% of the population in low and middle income countries, we just asked people. We weren't talking about schmoozing. We said just what Rachel has said, we know what it's like to be in a pandemic here in Canada. Imagine if you're in a place where it has totally shut down health systems, where it's totally shut down education systems. And it became very easy for Canadians to identify with that. And that became more important than the schmoozing, because that was the way that people were able to do their part to try and end the pandemic.
But I bet your supporters are looking forward to the big schmooze coming back.
Absolutely. People want to be together. We all want to be. We'd rather be in the studio with you right now. So we'll all want to be together.
I get you. Julia, let me get you back in here. You know, oftentimes for charities, raising money when times are normal is tricky enough. And of course, for the last 19, 20 months, it has not been normal. So I wonder whether you are running into a particularly even more challenging kind of donor fatigue in your travels to get people to sign on. What are you finding?
So I think what I'm hearing from members is similar to what I've heard here, is that originally in kind of the first days of the pandemic, we were able to make the case that this was a profound moment, that this was a major shift, that people had to give and donate. I think what you're speaking to and the fatigue is really what my members are talking about. They're worried about is at what point do these campaigns of, look, this is a really big moment, we really need you to be more generous than normal, as David was speaking to the Give a Vax campaign, at what point will people stop responding to that message, to that kind of profound moment, and needing to kind of get back into the regular day-to-day business? And I mean, we know that we're going to see scarcity from our own government, and they're going to start to restrict things. And so what's that going to mean for the average donor? That shift hasn't happened yet from what I'm hearing from my members. They're still seeing the real generosity of Canadians, but I think there's fear about to come. And as David highlighted, those $20 a month, those regular donations, I mean, that's the difference between having a job and getting a bonus, right? Like, it's a difference between knowing I'm going to get a paycheck, knowing we're going to be able to continue with their work because we have these monthly consistent donors, and, you know, just kind of the one-offs, although of course the one-offs are equally as important. But I think the fatigue is coming. I think we're worried about it. And we're really trying to think, how do we recalibrate our pitches for the long haul, for the long game here, because this is going to be, I mean, we may be going back to normal here in Canada, but that is not the case in countries where you have 2%, 3% of the population. We are talking about grandmothers of, you know, frontline healthcare workers taking care of their orphaned grandchildren who are orphaned of AIDS, and they do not have a vaccine, and yet my 6-year-old is lining up for a vaccine. And when we start to parse that apart and that inequality apart, I think we've got to get better at telling that story. And what does that mean for donors? We need you in for the long haul. We need you in and alongside us as we begin to rebuild this world. Just like, you know, Canadians stepped up after World War II, just like that's when many of our organizations were formed, right? It was that notion of you're not going to solve this challenge in 2 years, in 3 years. This is going to be a 10-year goal.
Rachel, how about you? How much concern at your organization that people are, after 19 months, pretty fed up with COVID-19 and may not be as open to the kinds of pitches you might have made in the past?
I think it's very concerning, especially as others have said that, you know, the need is actually increasing. And so to speak about what the forward looking is quite challenging. So, you know, for example, the deterioration in child health outcomes and different outcomes for children over the last 2 years has been significant. And so we need people to understand that that deterioration is really requiring, as Julia said, long haul support. So where we're seeing, you know, a looming hunger crisis because of malnutrition rates really increasing, where we're seeing major learning loss for children over the last 23 months, different ways of, existing inequalities that have been exacerbated. This requires that, you know, with the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals ahead of us, where we've seen deterioration and a loss of some of the development gains that have been made over the last decades, that we really require a focus on how to address the new needs that are emerging, as well as to protect some of those development gains.
Michael, I know your organization, and of course thousands others across the country, have put the sort of the e-blast out into your supporters' mailboxes, asking them to pony up for Giving Tuesday, where we are right now. I'm curious as to what percentage of people who give on Giving Tuesday will you actually get to buy in significantly enough that they become regular monthly donors going forward? Any idea?
I don't have the number, Steve, for what we're doing. I mean, in some ways, Giving Tuesday for us is kind of an extension of the ongoing connection that we've had. You know, the point that we're trying to make to Canadians is to not just talk about statistics and the big issues, but especially at a time when the needs are greater than ever, It's about telling stories and making connections. We'll do that more on Giving Tuesday. It's part of our giving season that actually lasts, the whole fall and the winter. We have particular focus on our gift catalog, for example, where people can have tangible ways of connecting. But the ongoing work for our sustainable development programming doesn't go away. So our goal is always to turn every engagement with us, whoever connects with us, interested, that we can tell them more about the work that we're doing, the impact that they can make. I'd love to see every single person who donates to World Vision turn into a recurring, donor to World Vision or to another organization in our space, because the needs are significant. But it's still the same. It's about telling stories, individual stories, in our case, of children and families who are being helped, making a difference. These are not statistics. These are individuals who are facing challenges, and challenges in some ways that we've all been able to experience somewhat during the pandemic. And that's a unique point of connection.
Mm-hmm. David, how about this? In past years, when pitches have been made by organizations such as yours to ministers of finance all around the country or around the world, very often the answer was, we'd love to do more, but we just can't afford it. And the past year, finance ministers everywhere have kind of proved that you actually can go from a $35 billion deficit to a $350 billion deficit when it's necessary. Are you finding governments are prepared these days to step up more, given that the old rules around finance don't seem to work anymore?
Well, I think I have two answers to that in a way, Steve. I think what we have certainly found is that in trying to end the pandemic around the world, the government of Canada has stepped up. They're one of the top contributors to the COVAX initiative, and also have started to donate excess doses through Unicef to poorer countries in the world. But for ongoing, and I don't know what else my colleagues would say, but I think governments are still thinking much more about life here at home. We're trying. We've had opportunities to speak with Minister Sajjan already about the nutrition crisis that Rachel was mentioning, and we're trying to encourage him to be able to help that, because one of the things that the pandemic has certainly proven is that we're all together on the world. And that a child who is suffering in another part of the world, somebody who needs a vaccine, that's in a different continent, that has an impact on us in Canada. And I think that's something that finance ministers and ministers of development and Canadians, we've felt it in our bones in the last year and a half. And I think that gives an opportunity for people to be more active global citizens through helping any of the agencies that are on this call, and many, many others who are doing great work.
I guess it makes sense in my last minute here to give the final message to a guy whose last name is Messenger. How do you remind Canadians at this time of year that I know charity starts at home, but it's a big world?
I want to remind Canadians that, especially in this time of need, the needs in the world are going up. It's here at home and around the world. And if we can, it's a both-and situation. We can be responsive to the needs of our neighbors, but I think the challenge that I have for Canadians is for us to see that our neighborhood doesn't just stop at our borders. It reaches across the world. It's good for Canada to be able to respond to international poverty. It makes our well-being better, our health outcomes better, but it's also the right thing to do. Canadians are inherently generous. They've been so resilient and incredibly supportive, even during this time of incredible uncertainty, economic uncertainty. We've seen it in our organizations. Canadians continue to give. And I just want to encourage them to say, we are getting through this together, but we just need to continue to maintain that connection and that support and generosity that Canadians are known for.
That's the message from Michael Messenger, the President CEO of World Vision Canada. Thanks as well to Julia Anderson from CanWatch, and Rachel Logal-Carmichael from Save the Children, and David Morley from Unicef Canada. It's good of all of you to join us here on this Giving Tuesday on TVO. Many thanks, you four.
Thank you, Steve.
As we approach a second holiday season dealing with this pandemic, there are myriad small charities across the province working to help meet the immediate needs of people in their communities. They often run on fumes and the unflagging dedication of a small staff. Let's find out how they're doing. Starting in Vancouver, British Columbia with Mike DeGagne. He's president and CEO for Inspire. And in the provincial capital, in the Upper Beach, Shannon Craig, Chief Marketing Officer for Canada Helps. And in Midtown, Lisa Cates, founding partner with the charity Building Roots, and Raffi Aaron, spokesperson for the Interfaith Coalition to Fight Homelessness and a coordinator for the Out of the Cold meal program at St. Luke's United Church. Great to have you four on our program on this Giving Tuesday. And I just want to start, I guess, with a bit of a fact file here, establishing the facts on the ground of what you folks are dealing with. So Sheldon, if we can have that graphic, let's start there. This is from the Toronto Foundation's 2021 Vital Signs Report. It's kind of a report card annually on the state of the capital city in Ontario. And they tell us that a quarter of Torontonians are struggling to make ends meet. About a third of Black and Indigenous households are what they call food insecure. And that's about 3 times higher than white households. More than half of people with disabilities are struggling to access food and shopping, more than half. Meanwhile, Canadian net wealth increased more in 1 year, ending in the first quarter of 2021, than in any previous year. All right, that establishes some of the facts on the ground. Mike, why don't we start with you? Tell us, and for those who haven't heard of your charity, let's spell it. It's INDSPIRE, Inspire. What do they do?
Well, thank you. Inspire is an Indigenous charity, Canada's largest Indigenous charity, actually. And what we do is we support Indigenous post-secondary students. So we raise funds to support students in colleges, universities. And we try to have programs, try to motivate and get young Indigenous people to aspire to post-secondary education. We also acknowledge every year through our Inspire Awards a group of high-achieving and important people in our community, in the Indigenous community, who have accomplished great things in the arts, business, public service, etc. And this is so we do both a recognition of excellence and support for Indigenous students.
Let me do a fast follow-up. Is it fair to say, given the significant challenges that many Indigenous people in this country face, that if not for the work you were doing, these folks simply wouldn't be going to post-secondary?
In many cases, yes. There are funds, there are other opportunities for them to access funds, but for many First Nations, Métis, Inuit students, they don't have any other access. And so for our funds can be critical.
Gotcha. Shannon Craig, how about you? What's your mission?
Hi there. Well, I work for Canada Helps, and Canada Helps is a charity that for over 20 years has provided a safe and convenient place where Canadians can donate or fundraise for any of Canada's 86,000 charities. We also service charities themselves as well. We provide a full suite of free educational resources, as well as a full suite of online fundraising tools, so that all charities, regardless of their size, have access to the tools they need to fuel their mission. To date, over 3.2 million Canadians have donated using Canada Helps, a total of $1.9 billion to charities across Canada.
I have to say, you folks make it real easy. I know I've gone on the website, and as I'm sure lots of people have. What if you weren't around, how would the charities that you serve, how would they be disadvantaged?
Oh, in so many ways, especially during the pandemic. Digital is so important. And, during the pandemic, we saw thousands of charities literally start collecting donations online for the very first time. In April, we published a report called the Digital Skills Study, and we know that charities really lag in terms of digital. And so the role Canada Helps plays, the pandemic has proven, is more important than ever.
Gotcha. Lisa Cates, Building Roots. What do you folks do?
Well, Darcy Higgins and I started the charity with the belief that all communities should have a voice, and they should have the ability to make their needs known, especially the communities that are underserved and that are less noticed by people. So jumping ahead, we actually have focused our programs in Moss Park, and we have a shipping container market called the Moss Park Market, which is on Toronto Community Housing at Queen and Shibboleth. And we've noticed a huge need, a growing need for fresh food.
Yeah, we should just say for those who live outside Toronto, Moss Park is a neighborhood downtown that, well, maybe I should have you describe it. The clientele that you work with downtown are some of the, I guess, the most vulnerable people in our country.
Yes, the downtown east has, there are many issues. Our market actually services everybody, so everybody is able to come and get fresh food no matter what their circumstances. And there are a lot of seniors, there's people with mobility issues, there are addiction issues, mental health issues, but it is a community, and it is a community that deserves as much as anybody else has. And that is our mission in Moss Park.
Raffi, your turn. Come on in here and tell us what you guys do.
The Out of the Cold Meal Program at St. Luke's United Church provides hot meals twice a week on Sunday and Wednesday evenings. And we also have an outreach component where an hour before we serve meals at the church, we have outreach teams who take hot boxes filled with the meals, and they go to encampments and those who are sleeping rough to ensure that they get a meal.
Raffi, you've led me nicely to my follow-up question for everybody, which is, during the course of a global pandemic, when people are told not to gather, and in particular not to gather in indoor places, okay, how did you do what you do?
Well, we were the only Out of the Cold in the city to operate a socially distancing indoor dining. And obviously we had health and medical officials help us set up something that was completely different from anything that I had ever run at an Out of the Cold in my 14 years of volunteering. Prior to the pandemic, we would have had 10 people eating at a 6 or 8 foot table. And now we had 2 people eating at opposite ends of a 12-foot table. It really changed everything.
So how did you serve as many people under COVID as you would have previously, given the requirements of social distancing?
Well, it's interesting because some people didn't want to come in, so they took the meals to go. Other people came in and ate quickly, while others who needed to stay inside took a longer time. And a lot of our meals were also done in outreach, going around to people who would not come inside for a whole host of reasons, including, their concern about catching COVID.
Lisa, how did COVID affect what you do?
Well, we saw a huge rise in the need for food. We actually delivered over 15,000 food bags to people this year. At the beginning of COVID, the need just suddenly spiked. People were not able to leave their homes, especially seniors, those with mobility issues, underlying health issues. So we had a much larger delivery program, and we made sure that other organizations who came to us for food, for people they serve, also got food. And at this point, I have to say that it's very important to note that we give only the freshest food. So a lot of produce and eggs and bread. But our team was remarkable. We have remarkable volunteers. And to date, now we have 300 people coming to the market every Saturday. And on Friday, we also do deliveries to people that need food delivered to their homes. So we only see the need growing. It's not stopping and it's not stalling, it's growing.
Lisa, one quick follow-up to you. When you have 300 people gathering at the market, how tough are you guys on things like mask wearing and social distancing, etc.?
Right. Okay. So our shipping container used to be you could come in and shop. Now it's only our team and volunteers who are in the market, of course, with all the proper PPE. And people are given time slots and they line up socially distanced outside the market. And that way everybody is safe and everybody is also treated with a smile and a conversation. But we are always safe. It is our first priority.
Mike, it might occur to people watching or listening to this right now that if you're in the business of raising money to help Indigenous people go to post-secondary, the pandemic might not necessarily have an impact on what you do. So let's find out if, in fact, that's the case.
It was, in fact, the case that we had to support our students even more than we would normally have. We have had a number of our students, of course, have families of their own, and we wanted to make sure they would persist as post-secondary education and other forms of schooling slowed down. And so we stepped up our mentorship programs to keep them on their educational journey.
Got it. Shannon, how about for Canada Helps? Any impact by the COVID-19 pandemic?
Absolutely. So it was an incredibly busy time for us. We're quite comfortable operating in the online world. It's what we do. So that wasn't the problem for us. It wasn't about technologies, but it was about incredible support to rally our teams to help charities get online. So all of a sudden, events canceled, services canceled, but funding still so critical to be able to change on a dime and be able to serve the communities that these charities do so well. And so we were, we increased and doubled down in terms of the number of educational sessions we were doing. We were proactively reaching out to Canada's charities, getting them to sign up, helping them get their tools implemented, making sure they could fundraise and had the skills to do so. But on top of that, we absolutely did some really busy work to make sure Canadians knew how to support charities. So, for example, we launched our COVID-19 relief funds. And what it is these are cause funds that they're actually a new and innovative giving innovation that Canada Helps has launched. We have a number of them now. But for COVID-19, we launched the COVID-19 relief funds. And what it was a really easy way for Canadians to give. It allowed them to make a single donation and support the collective work of charities addressing issues that are working on the front lines.
Shannon, tell us this. We know, of course, that there were many, many, many private sector businesses that went under during COVID-19. How about for charities? Do we know whether any charities actually ceased to continue to do their work simply because funding dried up or they couldn't handle the complications around the pandemic, et cetera?
I don't have great data in terms of charities that have actually gone under. We usually rely on the CRA and we wait for that data to come forward. That said, we know there's been enormous demand on charities. We know that, there's a number of charities that are at risk of going under. So in August, Imagine Canada did a sector monitor. And in that study, 14% of charities were facing demand challenges and not the kind that most charities were facing, which was increased demand. This was a group of charities that actually had lower demand. And the reason was largely because they couldn't perform services in the same way that they did pre-pandemic. So think about arts, charities, camps, social services, and programs for seniors. There's so many programs like this. And what we hear is that of those 14% of Canadian charities with demand shortages, where they couldn't, maintain regular service flow because of health restrictions, 82% of them have said that they've declined revenue, with the average decline of revenue being 45%. So a tremendous drop in revenue. And when you think about the day when we come out of the pandemic and we want to have strong, healthy, vibrant communities, it's really concerning that 1/3 of this group actually says that they won't be able to sustain operations beyond 12 months.
Rafi, are we describing your situation there?
Yes, you are. We had started this program as an emergency response to the pandemic. And the worst case scenario that we had planned for was to serve 9,000 meals or 350 meals over a 5-month period. And essentially what happened was somewhere in the middle of that, we were serving 600 meals a week. And by the time April 28th came and we had to close, we were supposed to close, we just simply couldn't. And so we had to carry on. And we are in a situation where we have gone an additional 12 months and have now served 21,000 meals. So we have gone to all our donors twice already. And we are in a situation, that's just sort of unimaginable.
Well, okay, so you've operated longer than you originally planned to, and you've done a lot more than you originally planned to. Do you have the money required? Because the need obviously hasn't gone away. Are you in danger of going under for lack of funds?
Well, we're in danger of running like a regular out of the cold in the new year. And that would mean that instead of continuing on to serve 600 meals a week, or some 32,000 meals, we'll be serving 6,600 meals. So there'll be, over 24,000 meals that we won't be able to serve. And when we had to carry on April 28th, we made that decision to go forward. We wrote a letter to all three levels of government, as well as the Mayor of Toronto, stating, this is an all-out emergency and we need help. This goes beyond what faith communities and individuals can be expected to do.
What kind of response did you get?
We haven't had any response until this week, when the story came to light. So, we're hoping that there will be some assistance.
Gotcha. Lisa, I should ask you a question about inflation. Inflation is running higher now than it has been for 3 decades, and I wonder what kind of impact that makes on your ability to do what you do.
Well, as we all know, food costs are escalating. We are able to meet the demand, but our concern is the rising cost of food and how we are going to be able to help all the people who will be coming out, and there will be more people to serve. And, COVID has wreaked havoc in so many ways. People had COVID, maybe lost their jobs, they were ill. We're also now looking at long COVID. There's so many issues at play here. And it is our responsibility and our commitment to keep building routes and the market open and giving out as much food as is needed every week.
Mike, does inflation have an impact on what you're doing?
Yes, certainly. There's going to be, I think, a move by colleges and universities, certainly, to make sure that they make up for lost time in terms of their lost revenues during COVID. So I think what we're going to see is increasing demands on students, and our students, our Indigenous students that we support, to pay higher fees, and the cost of living, of course, for them. Also of something that we support will be higher. So there'll be increasing demands on charities like ours that can give to students that we support.
Shannon, I don't know if this is even doable, but I'm going to try asking anyway. Who gives to you? What kind of person? What's the demographic?
Well, that's really an interesting thing. So what we know about giving is that we've been tracking giving for many, many years. Canada Helps publishes an annual giving report. And, one of the things that is really clear is that prior to the pandemic, prior to the increased demand of the pandemic, we had really concerning trends regarding giving. Overall giving looked relatively flat, when you considered inflation. But when you actually got into the numbers, there was a problem that we were kind of concealing, what we call an upcoming giving gap, whereby right now, Canadians age 55 and older are giving at 2 times the rate of Canadians in the age bracket of 25 to 54. And what's happening is that what we're seeing is that giving participation rates are declining. So in 2007, 24% of individuals who filed their income taxes claimed charitable donations. By 2017, that had dropped to 19%, a full 5% in participation. Participation rates are declining across all age brackets, but most notably, it's with Gen X and below. And one of the things that's happening is that while the number of donors in the older age bracket is slightly less over time, What's happened is that there's a smaller group of aging donors that are giving much more, and that's really made the total numbers look great. But what's very concerning is there's a dramatic need for us to really engage younger Canadians to make sure that as these older Canadians are no longer able to give, we have that giving foundation and can maintain a strong charitable sector.
Let me, Shannon, just ask you about the conclusion that you came to. And I wonder if it's because, well, let me put it this way. I wonder if it's not because younger generations are less charitable in terms of their personalities, but they've been through the Great Recession. They're now going through a once in a century international pandemic. Maybe their financial means are more precarious than in previous generations, and does that help explain why they're giving less than those who are 55 plus?
Well, there's so much to unpack in there. Basically, one of the most exciting things is that during the pandemic, we did do some research with Environics to really study who was giving through Canada Helps. And we really saw younger donors show up. But we saw them show up in different ways. First off, they absolutely gave. Over half the donors to our COVID Relief Fund were younger donors. We also saw younger donors really show off for our social justice funds. So our Black Solidarity Fund, our Anti-Racism Fund, our Indigenous People Solidarity Fund. Again, we saw over half of those donors to those funds being younger donors. So it was quite an exciting year, and that really ties into an interesting trend. So for quite some time, we've been talking about how younger donors really relate more to people than to brands and institutions. And when it comes to giving, they're passionate about causes a little bit less than institutions. And so what we found at Canada Helps is when we wrap up giving within a cause fund, younger donors are showing up. They're there, they're able to learn about a cause and give to the collective work of a number of charities supporting that cause. So it's been one of the really interesting things, such that we've decided to actually launch that as a net new site called uniteforchange.com that's now live. It's really designed for younger Canadians, where we recognize that there's different interests and needs in terms of how they want to give. So it needs to be easy. They need to be able to respond when something's happening in the news, and to do it at that cause level is really helpful. And our goal is that we're going to learn and experiment so much to understand how we nurture younger donors to become the future of giving, and be able to share that across this sector so we can all engage in more relevant ways with younger Canadians. Because we don't think it's that they don't want to give. We do think that there are some additional challenges, of course, they face with housing and so forth. But when we do our research, they are interested in giving. And in fact, they show a huge increase in wanting to actually give smaller monthly gifts, showing that commitment. So, we like to think about them being impulse givers, giving to just crowdfunding, but in fact, there's a number of really discerning younger Canadians, and they're actually holding charities to account for so much. They actually really want to see charities being very transparent, and they expect to know how the work they're doing is having an impact. So I think there's a fascinating generation, but we need to engage with them in really relevant ways and the ways they want to be engaged.
All right. Got a couple of minutes left here. I want to see if I can get two quick answers to two quick questions. Rafi, to you here. There are going to be people watching or listening to this who are saying, you guys are doing God's work, but it's work that, frankly, governments ought to be doing, not you. What do you say to that argument?
I agree that when there's cracks in the system, we can fill it in. But right now you're looking at canyons. And, the food insecurity issue has become so great, as is the housing catastrophe that we're looking at here in Toronto, that really government, the city needs to step in. This is just far too large an issue. On the other hand, as a grassroots organization, we do have something that people like, and that is they enjoy coming to us. We're not institutionalized. We work with other grassroots organizations like OHAS, the Ontario Aboriginal HIV/AIDS Strategy, Street Health, and other volunteer groups. So people feel comfortable coming to us. So my answer is that the government should be assisting us to do this work, because We have the clients, and all we need is capacity.
Gotcha. So assisting you, not taking over those responsibilities. Understood. Okay, Lisa, you're going to finish us off here. Giving Tuesday, does it actually make a difference to your bottom line every year?
It does make a difference. And I think that what it also does is it really increases awareness for the charities out there. And of course, charities like Building Roots and other charities can't exist having one day to give. But what I do think it does is we do actually gain with Giving Tuesday, and it opens the door. And it also gets people motivated who might otherwise not be. So I do believe in Giving Tuesday, and I think it should continue.
Well, I am happy to say, as we sign off here, all of the names of your organizations, in case it inspires anybody to give on this Giving Tuesday, starting with Mike DeGagne, President CEO for Inspire, Shannon Craig, Chief Marketing Officer for Canada Helps, Lisa Cates, we've just heard from, founding partner with Building Roots, and Rafi Aaron, who's with the Interfaith Coalition to Fight Homelessness and a coordinator for the Out of the Cold meal program at St. Luke's United Church. Happy Giving Tuesday to all of you. I hope the shekels rain from the trees, and good luck with all of the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that is the agenda for Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. Giving Tuesday, as you've heard. During the past hour, we've learned about a number of worthy places to donate. If it's not too self-interested, we should also remind you that TVO is also a registered charity that we think does some pretty good work. So if you're inclined, you can contribute by going to tvo.org and clicking on the donate button. And if you do so before midnight tonight, generous donors Diane Blake and Stephen Smith will match your gift. Tomorrow, is it time for a 4-day work week? We'll examine that. I'm Steve Paikin. Thanks for watching TVO, for joining us online at tvo.org, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.